All right, so we're live. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I have Skeeb on the line now, and I can hear him. Hopefully you guys do. I have trying some new audio setups and this live streaming stuff, so and always, because I don't do it very much, I need to get better at it. So let's see. I think we have one person in here, but if anybody can jump in and give us a shout, let us know that we can be heard. And then, Skeeb, how are things otherwise, man? Yeah. Cold, dude. This winter's been real cold. It's weird. Usually we get snow, and we don't have any snow, so it's kind of throwing, but it's cold. Like it's really cold, but no snow. It's just weird. I don't know. It's not normal. But then Florida's got 7 inches of snow, so I mean, what's normal? Hey, Matthew, can you hear both Skeeb and myself? Hopefully we're not blazing loud. Can't hear Skeeb. All right, let's hear that one. How about now? Try now, Skeeb.
Hello, hello, hello. Guys hear me any better? I don't want to blast Tyler out.
It should be good. I think what's happening is, so before, if I had desktop audio on, it would double mic. But now I think what I need to do is I need to have desktop audio not muted, so that it. So I think what's happening is it ingests from the collab cam into my setup and then outputs through the desktop instead of
right.
So like I'm hearing direct from you, but then the audience will have to hear. Sorry, we're going into this whole podcast and diving into what makes this software work. But yeah, so I think that's how that's working. Is it's pulling it in and then pushing it out through the desktop audio for the audience to hear, which is kind of interesting. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know, but that's what it seems like. So, anyways, let's talk Audiophile to me, man. Do we need to establish safe words first?
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, so I guess what's I thought I'd bring up first has been kind of cool. You got a lot of stuff you've been pushing out lately, man. It's cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back into the swing of it and doing more of these. That little Osmo 3 helped a lot with getting me back in the mood of doing them. I'm behind actually by a lot, but then stuff comes in that you're time gated on. So for instance, I just got these in with the boom mic, the AER 105s with the boom mic from Meze.
Yes.
And so these are pretty cool. But they basically, from my understanding, is they're just the 99 Classics that are basically open back with a boom mic.
Yeah, I got them too. I was almost going to wear them, and I'm right back there. But that's what I want to compare them to, because I've got the 99 Classics, and I've heard that people have claimed that the 105 is like almost like a 109 Pro, but cheaper, which is interesting because that would be good and bad for Meze. Yeah. But yeah, I want to compare it to that too.
But yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if that is. I in my take, just from my audio memory, I would say these are more. I don't think they're that personally. Just from the time I've listened to them, I only had them for a couple days, but I don't know. What's your take on that? I don't know. I think that the 109 is the better headphone. Or I mean, I can already tell. Just by listening from the short amount that I have.
Yeah, no, I bought the 109. I had the 109 a long time ago, and I sold it, and I rebought it again, and then I got the 105, and I already had the 99 Classic, so I'm like, oh, perfect, so I can listen to them all, and I have. Yeah, I mean, I agree. The 109 Pro is still the superior headphone to them too, but the 105 is pretty good. especially on, I mean, it's easy to drive, but I have been able to pick up some more out of certain things that I enjoyed more. So,
Yeah, I
and
think
by the way, if I'm looking at my phone a lot, it's because you froze again on my desktop. So I'm a little behind as I'm looking at the stream.
you know what I would do sometimes when this was happening? I would pull up the YouTube channel on the side so I could see the chat, and then I would just cover that and I just watch. It's a little bit delayed, slightly, but it's a little bit easier. But it's my bad for the
No, it's,
software.
I don't know whose bad it is. Honestly, it's hard to say with technology. No, I've got it on my phone, so
Okay.
we're good.
So I will say this though, like the comfort and is insane with the 105s. Like these suede, like not even suede. I don't even know what this like fake velour pad is, like ridiculously cushy.
Yeah, I agree. This thing is. I like to me like the aesthetic of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I wasn't into audio like I am now and I was still into heavy gaming with not much audio and I saw this, I'd be like, oh, that's a sweet gaming headset. My opinion. I mean, even this doesn't bother me how it goes up and around. I don't know. I think this is like,
yeah. It's comfortable. That actually is really nice. That the way that I've always liked this aesthetic as well. Like even though it is kind of hit or miss, I guess, for some people, but I think it looks cool. Like it's unique and cool looking. And then what's the fear of holes, agoraphobia or something like that? I guess that'd only be the only people that would have problems with this.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the grill it's sweet.
I like it. I think it's it's dope as all get out.
Yeah. I did a lot of B-roll yesterday as I was going through all kinds of stuff, and I was having some fun with this, like the lighting effects on everything else. This takes really good B-roll.
Oh, nice.
You know, some stuff is like it's too shiny or something, and it's hard to record. Not this. Nope. This is cool.
It does have that nice matte. It's like a matte black, so it doesn't have that shininess as much. It'll have like a slight glow, like that matte look.
Yeah. It does.
Funny, this was not planned at all. Like I don't have any topics, and it's funny that we both have the 105. Tryptophobia. Thank you, Caesar. What's up? Yeah, we can answer questions. I think we're gonna have a couple topics here and there, but yeah, we'll answer some questions here and there as they come up. But let's see. Some of the other topics. Steve, you said you had a bunch that you wanted to talk about. I don't really have too many other than just kind of hang out and chatting. I guess my biggest thing lately has been just I've been more and more diving into the subjective side of audiophile, but I've always been a subjective guy over the objective side. But I don't know.
Well, I mean, you know me, I'm all about measurements, so yeah.
Oh,
no,
so
I get that.
Did you see that peak? Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry. See, this is why I wanted to establish safe words from the beginning.
No, it's all good. Sorry, I'm gonna adjust something here.
Same.
I get OCD with my. There we go.
I'm the same way, man. If you see me, I do the same thing, man. Like, and I'm using a new lens that I don't usually use for this stuff, so I'm kind of like it's a 20 millimeters, so it's even wider, so you can actually see behind me now. But
yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So sorry, went off the rails there. So what do you think about like this year? I mean, I haven't really seen too much exciting stuff coming through as far as my mic got all pushed out. I haven't seen too much exciting new stuff, I guess is what I was trying to say.
No, I mean yeah, I mean late last year was exciting for sure with all the releases that came out, but I mean I'm going to Can Jam in like less than a month, so I'm sure they're going to have some. I feel like New York, they always have stuff they're launching there that's going to be new, so and some things we probably haven't heard about yet, so that's what I'm looking forward to. Is there's always something that'll pop up that I didn't know about. Other than I think this was actually one of the topics you had, which I think is a good topic, is all the like single guy or duo companies that are coming up and making some really good stuff.
Yeah, I don't have any on hand right now, but you got the Dahlia. Like honestly, like that thing. Talking to Nick about that, like that is like to me the Dahlia for him using a off the shelf driver that a lot of people have been using, right? And so the way he tuned that is just magic to me. Like he just how he like it feels like he squeezed every little bit possible out of that driver. It's the same driver that's in the DMS Omega. It's in a lot of the it's in the Murph phone that I just did the video there. But I think he really nailed it. As far as like especially for gaming, or if you're like for me, like I like things that I can like fluidly move from, you know, playing games to watching shows to, you know, listening to music and enjoying it and having a good time. And I think those really nailed that aspect especially. And then gaming with those, like it's ridiculous how he tuned it to be for gaming. It's ridiculous. Super good.
Yeah, I saw you you compared it to like unless I was misunderstanding to like the 800S.
Yeah.
For staging.
Yeah.
And yeah,
it's not super wide, but it's definitely like stupid good.
Right. Yeah, I can't wait to check it out because I know I'm on a list somewhere to get it here soon. Because I remember listening to it at SoCal, and I told him, I was like, yeah, when you guys are doing the tour, put me on the tour list. So I'll be curious. I want to compare it to the Boca Open that I, you know, love so very much. Yeah. Similar price point, and I thought it'd be cool to compare to, you know, the 109. I think that's what is exciting me the most is we're finally getting a lot more competition in that, in the $1,000 range. It's like everything for a while there felt like it was $2-3 grand. It's like, come on, let's bring this thing down.
It was either for like the super high end, or the super like cheap stuff. But even the super cheap stuff's never really, I mean, define cheap. I mean,
right,
especially in the audiophile space. But like, I guess the cheap stuff would be IEMs. Not that like I actually busted these out again, and these are my Campfire Audio Andromeda Golds, which there was only like 1,000.
Oh, nice.
And they're like they're still to this day probably my most favorite IEMs outside of the Unique Melody Mest series. But I just IEMs just aren't my jam. I think for even right now it feels weird talking to you. I feel like I'm talking louder than I should be because I'm so isolated.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why I chose to go open back, because when I use closed back, I have to do the monitoring thing just so I can hear my voice. So I know what you mean.
So yeah, I'm watching it on that's why if you see me looking up like just past the camera, it's because I'm looking at Ski, but also at the mic monitoring, and I'm staying below the yellow. So Cesar Gutierrez, he says he has a VC as his main headphone, some good IEMs that he loves, but he's looking for something on ear or around ear that's as cheap as possible. And if you're going cheap as possible for on ear or around ear, it's, I mean, Skeeb, I think you'll agree with me here, but it's going to be Cost Porta Pros with the Axi pads. I mean, if you want the cheapest, if you want something a little more unique, and if you can find them, if they make them available, a little more expensive, I'd say something from the ETA guides. It's another group of DIY headphone makers. They do like 3D printed, and they're just really cool stuff. But they have like the O2, the ADA, and those are pretty fun. I think the ADA is a little more mid-centric, and the O2s and so the semi-closed, if they ever start putting those out again, is one of my favorites. I don't actually own the semi-closed. I own the O2 and the ADA, but yeah, those are fantastic options.
Yeah, and I think it depends on is when you're looking for cheap as possible. Yeah, cheap as possible is the Porta Pro.
Porta Pro.
I don't
have to have Yaxi pads.
Yes. You know, what's funny about that, I was talking with Martin from Koss. You probably have, I'm sure, talked to him before.
I've never talked with him. He never actually engages with me, so I think
it's usually me, to be fair, that engages with him. I think he's just super busy. But yeah, I actually told him, I was like, when he had sent out the wireless Porta Pros, and I was like, man, these are really good. And first thing I did was switch out the pads to the Axi pads. He's like, man, I wish you wouldn't do that. He's like, all of us agree the stock pads are the best. I'm like, no, Like, they're not bad. It's just no.
No, dude. I got the ridiculously long. So I have an extension cable for my IEMs, but I actually have. So I have the Bluetooth ones that I got from you, but making a mess. But I got these, and it's the Supreme version, the white ones with the off-white cream. I got random daughter hairs in them, but let's see if it will. But yeah, I mean, these things are great, man. And then you can get versions that have like the mic attached to, and like there's a lot of options. And then the Oxy pads, you can do all different colors, and it's pretty awesome for that.
Yeah, those are very cool. Sorry, I had to update my phone to live. Like I said, it's frozen on my screen. So
no, it's ridiculous.
Now, I don't remember. Did you get those with the player as well, or no?
I did not get them with the player. I just have the.
That's the Moda. I can't remember the name of that. Has a unique name.
Oh yeah. I don't think haven't really done that. But I'm trying to think I mean, the costs work with everything though. Like, so like the Mojo that you have, like on All Truth, like it's actually more than you need.
Oh yeah. 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 I mean, a laptop's fine for a Porta Pro. So
I'm even plugging into your phone with a little dongle and you'd be fine. So sorry, back to real quick, since I just saw you, I'm doing a variants. I'm doing like a what do they call this? A rusty nail cocktail. So it's a Drambuie with a Glenfiddich 14. 14. So it's a honeyed Scotch liqueur with a 14-year-old Scotch.
Nice. Yeah, this is actually, I didn't show you the bottle before we started, but so Hard Truth, you know I love so much, but it's actually a John Mellencamp collab. I guess nice. He has his own like whiskey distillery or something. So they worked with him on it. It's good. It's like a toasted French oak, and it is very good, smooth.
Toasted stuff's always great.
Yeah.
All right. I'm actually. It's funny. I've actually been trying to slow down on my booze intake pretty heavily, actually.
Honestly, me too. So I feel you there.
My wife. I went downstairs. She's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Really? At 3 p.m. You're having a?" I'm like, "It's HiFi After Dark, babe. You don't understand."
Just tell her it's 6 o'clock for me. So yeah. it's more fair.
Yeah. But I'll probably only have this one little glass, and I'll switch over to my actually the other thing I'll be drinking. I found these, which is it's the Liquid Death, but it's root beer Liquid Death.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'm excited to try that.
Nice. Yeah, actually, sorry, Josh. Hello, Josh, Caesar, Matt, or Matthew. He brought up Caesar did about not about the Mojo 2, sorry, about the M18. No, that was Matthew that brought that up. And then Josh brought up the new iBasso. I do want to check out the new iBasso. Did you happen to see that? It's their new tube dongle that's only going to be like, it's like $299, which is, I mean, for a tube dongle, that's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. You know what's funny is like I don't know. Like I'm slowly moving away. Like I have that HiFi Griffin, and it's really hard for me to enjoy, like move away from that, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I also have the little gold bars and like the HiFi Go bars. And HiFi is a unique company. Like I think they have a lot going on in that space, but they're definitely more pricey. As far as like you pay a premium. I almost like for what they have, but I like their stuff. I do want to get one of those little tubes though, like the little tube dongles. I think so. I'll have to pick your brain on. I know you really like the Woo one.
Yeah.
So I'll have to figure out, see what you think about the other ones.
I'd love to A/B the two, just because I do like the tube, the Woo one so much, and although it's not a lot more, it's like $100 more than the iBasso one. But I did read on the iBasso site that it's still going to suffer from the whatever you call it, the interference, and it'll do the ringing thing just like the Woo Tube one does. So I think that's the problem with tube dongles is noise is going to be a problem
And
interference.
what
I forgot. I was going to show you. I finally got this in.
I was gonna say, I've been seeing those.
So
those are cool.
I just charged it and I have not used it yet. I'm probably going to do like a little short video. I don't think I'm going to do like a review thing, but just a fun video on it. But it's funny because I know Fio makes the, I don't want to say normal version, but their own version. And then this was kind of like an offset collab with Fio. But it's cool. It's just this thing is so dang light and plastic. I'm like, is there anything in here? It just feels like a shell. But I haven't used it yet. I just charged it up and got it in yesterday.
Nice. Those are going off like crazy. Like I've been seeing them. Maybe it's just my algorithm, but I've been seeing a ton of those little mini cassette player looking things with the little screen where they have them. So those are definitely popular right now.
Those are, and I think a lot of the retro looking headphones, because I know on our Discord, some of the guys post some things, and I almost bought one of them. Like, no, I don't need to.
Yeah, and they're and then when they describe the sound, I was like, yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty. They're basically like a. That's so the other on-ear option. Sorry, back to the Caesar. You can also go into Grado, the Grado stuff, but a lot of people don't like those because they can be bright. My favorite of the Grados that I've heard so far has been the hemp version, but you ever like. It's still going to be, a Grado. And I think they're actually starting the newer stuff. They're actually making it where they can have replaceable cables now, which is nice. But
yeah, that's one thing I have not gotten into very much is the Grado stuff.
That's a unique flavor, man, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I remember I listened to a Bluetooth one, I don't know, last year at some point at one of the can jams that I liked. But then I was told by the Grado fans, it's like, that's not a Grado. That's Bluetooth. That doesn't count.
Unless your ears are bleeding after you're done listening to it, it isn't a Grado. Sorry, Grado fans. I'm being
no, it's true. That's why I've been cautious about checking them out, because that's all I hear. Stabby stabs in the ears.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. So if you don't mind, I am going to bring up one of the topics that I had. Because I only bring it up because I saw that Mark actually just did a video on myths and things in the hobby. And it's funny, one of the things on his list was burn-in. And I know you and I were talking about that, like whether or not, we believe in it or measure it or whatever else. And I'm just curious, like, I know you and I have talked, but like, what are your thoughts on it?
So as far as like, I mean, I know a bunch. I had a couple buddies that were, what would that be considered? Material engineers, or like people that test that kind of stuff. Like they test how aluminum will crush or how steel will react, and so like they're building bridges to, just all those things, like how things interact with each other during certain pressures or that kind of stuff. And so they'd always explain things to me. And then also I had a couple of mentors that were exponentially smarter than I was. And then my own experience with it as well. So I will say this: anything that moves or anything that has constant friction or contact there's gonna be changes. Like there's no way ifs, ands, or buts around that. Like there's always gonna. Now whether or not those are audible things or whatnot, that's a whole nother factor. But for instance, for like a speaker, right? That's the easiest way to describe it. So like we have the kefs back here, right? And there's a rubber dome around the deal, and then as that moves, that rubber, you could say degrades, or it's not necessarily degraded, but it's stretching, it's flexing, and then as that happens, the material slowly changes. And so that material difference, that as it changes after use, same with like an engine. You get a brand new car, they always say, hey, drive it relatively this way for the first 500 miles, and that's because of break-in, right? Because the materials, the pistons, as they're moving through the cylinders, all that stuff, they're trying to, they're flexing, they're doing all this stuff, and depending on all sorts of factors, it does have a material change to whatever you're listening to, or as far as like, or whatever you're using. I think I gave you the example of folded paper, right?
Yeah.
So like,
yeah, you did.
So like if you were to fold, I have some random paper here. Don't necessarily want to show. Oh, here we go. I got a rune little ad here. So you fold a piece of paper, right? And you fold it, and you unfold it, and you fold it back, and then now you have this almost door-like material. And as you do that, you constantly are folding it back and forth, it creates this crease that eventually will become so worn that you can easily just like rip it in half without there being almost like a perfect cut, right?
Right.
So we'll do it. Yeah, like, and that was because of the material change that I did as it moved and the flexing, right? So that was an example someone gave me a long time ago, and I was like, makes sense. And so whether going into back to the audio aspect of it, and as a practical factor, I believe burn-in is real. How much of that is audible to our ears, or how much we can actually pick up on it ourselves, is a whole other question. But I have heard it personally with my Verite opens and closed. There was a Verite closed that I had. It was the first run before they even released them ever, and that's what made me get a Verite open and the Verite closed. And it had never. Zach had only done a couple 100 hours with it, and then as I listened to it over a month and hearing the differences, whether or not that's brain burn-in as well, because that's a whole nother thing that you have to talk about when you get into audio with the human auditory system, but it did change over time. And so going back into the aspect of brain burn-in, that's just your brain equalizing to what it thinks is the normal sound. And so your brain is actually really good at tricking you into what is good. So that's why you get that, like, over a period of a week or more, you'll get that aspect of like things are changing over time, and that's why it's good to go back, like listen to something for just a week and then go back to something else after a week. And you can do like back to back, but it's just tough because our brains will automatically EQ to whatever we think or it thinks is, not that it's like a secondary or almost like this other entity in your body or whatever, but like it that will factor in of how your brain EQs stuff. So
I think of it as like not to be like gross, I guess could not be gross too, but like smells. I mean, like when you walk into a room at first, you're like, oh, one or two things, either what the hell is that smell, or hey, what's that smell?
But over time, it equalizes, right? And then
right over time, you just don't smell it anymore. So I mean, I kind of think of sound in that same way too, like to what you just described. And it's funny, as you were saying that, I wanted to bring this out because this is an IAM that I'll be doing a video on here this week. It's called the Night from Noble Audio. This thing, I love the look of it. I wanted to love this thing so much because I love how it looks, but it's not my signature.
Yeah.
But when I first listened to it, I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I was like, man, they're smooth, but there's like something that keeps being peaky, and I keep picking it out, and it's like bothering me. And the more I listened to them, I told him like a week later, I was like, I don't hear it really anymore. That's not burning though. I think, again, like you said, I think that was just me getting used to it, because then I listened to something that's not peaky at all and went back to those and I heard it again. So, I mean, yeah, I think that's a huge part of the whole burn-in thing. I think that's why people have so many issues with companies like, I think it's HiFi Man that says like, you got to burn these for 140 hours before
thousands
optimal
of hours
use.
Or some crap.
Right. And so people look at that as like, that's not true. You just want us to own this thing for too long till it's past the warranty period.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I get it. I get the debate. But at the same time, I'm with you when it comes to some things. Like, to me, it just kind of makes sense for dynamic drivers more than anything, because they have so much space to move and flex and all that. And like, especially bass excursion and things, I gotta think you would get a little bit more movement out of that over time with burn-in. So
even I don't have any of my ZMS readily on hand, but like, so ZMS are a perfect example as well, because he has the drivers in wood, right, and they're encased in there, but there is some flex inside of that space, not necessarily just ZMF, but like any driver that has it's housed in there, there's going to be some flex inside of the actual cup housing as it's as it moves. Think of like I mean, so over time things get shifted slightly, right, as they're constantly being moved, and so that also would be a contributing factor. Planar magnetics are less likely to have burn in. That's a myth as well. I think there is some burn in there, but it's so minimal because there's such little excursion between the magnets. Granted, it's
Right.
pushing a lot more. How would you put this? It's not pushing air as much, but it's pushing mass more, if that makes sense. I think that's accurate. Like where it's, you know, I mean, because it's only moving like da-da-da, whereas a actual traditional driver is moving like the cones, and it's moving more to put, and it's pushing air, and that's pushing that, you know. But yeah, that's my take. I'm not an engineer though. I'm not any like that. But yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm with you on that though. I mean, because you and I were talking about that with planar versus dynamic. And the reason I brought that up originally was because when I did my Aria Unveiled video, I had somebody comment and they said, "Hey, you know, you got to listen to these for a while. These dramatically change with burn-in." And I'm like, dramatically? I don't know. I mean, maybe, sure, but I think a lot of that's your brain getting used to it.
Your brain getting used to it. And here's another factor, I think, with a lot of things. If you're hearing a dramatic, like a proper, like massive dramatic change in the audio signature of the driver, I would probably remove the pads or remove some stuff like the pad to look at the driver and make sure there's no deterioration of the actual driver and you're using a bad driver. I don't want to be a jerk, but like, especially with planars, like if you're hearing such a massive difference in burn-in, I would look at the driver, make sure there's no cracks in the traces, the metal traces, make sure there's no holes in the driver or I mean.
Sorry, I got to do it. I know what happened. He listened to him like this, and then he took the cover off. Wow. Sorry, I shouldn't say that because he wasn't being a jerk about it. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but
and I'm not trying to detract. And sorry, we are. Yeah, that was kind of being kind of bullyish there. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm not trying to be a bully. I'm not trying to like good. Say that you're wrong for your thoughts, your opinions. That's unique to you. That's really awesome. And that could be a brain burn in. It could be a mix of brain burn in and actual burn in. And you might just also be more sensitive to those differences where that burn in affected it, right? Like there's also that. There's some people, their anatomy is just more sensitive to different parts of the audio curve, if you wanted to, like the highs to like the different between the 20 and 20, right? Like that's the thing you have to pay attention to is like where your sensitivities are, because everyone has generally some kind of sensitivity somewhere in that realm, and that could be a factor as well. Caesar, real quick, sorry, best amp for the VC. Personally, I think you know what's wild is the Apos Audio Gremlin is fantastic. I really like that one for a cheap, but it's balanced only. And also, if you can get a hold of it, I think Christian's putting out more of them here soon. Is the Niche Piedis Maximus? Fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, Matthew, nailed it. Planners have more area and dynamics have more excursion. Exactly. That's what I was trying to get at. Like there's just more.
Yeah.
I
think with planars, I could see maybe I could buy somebody saying that the top end gets smoothed out a little bit on a planar. Mm-hmm. I could buy that. But yeah, I mean, you know, I know you agree with this. We've always said this, but synergy, I think, is more important than anything else. Just, you know, whether you want to believe an amp is an amp, I don't, or a DAC is a DAC. Trying different things and different combinations will definitely give you some differences.
Yeah. Actually, I just watched a thing recently. It was this really cool speech this guy gave. It was a professor at some big college thing. It was an older one, too. I think it was back in it must have been like the 80s or 90s or something. And it was a clip someone posted. Oh, you know who it was? It was Alex Rosin from Rad Zeros, the Rad Zero. I don't think he's doing. I'm not sure what's going on with him with the Rad Zeros, but he randomly reposted it on his socials. But it was interesting because this guy was talking about like measurements, right? And he was talking about like all the different how those things factor. And he's like, in all honesty, every amp in DAC should measure more or less the same. But he said, that being said, there will be there'll be big differences in the sound. Like he's like, at the end of the day, there's going to be fluctuations in how they sound, and he's like, what that comes down to is the components, the way things interact, and that's that whole material science, right? So you have electricity going through different transistors, different things, and it could all measure the same, but it will have a different sound at the end of the day. And why that is, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know anything about this stuff. But it was interesting talk that the guy did. And then he said, and his final conclusion was like, at the end of the day, it's really because of all the different factors that come into listening per individual, because we're all individuals, and how there's all these different things that kind of make up how people perceive sound and or smell and or taste and or it's, there's your experiences in life to any kind of anatomy things, genetics, that kind of stuff, all factor in. Plus, like what your likes, dislikes, your biases, and that kind of thing towards things will change how you perceive sound, smell, taste, all that stuff. And so at the end of the day, the final lesson was that use your own ears, and whatever you like is what you like, and then be happy with it.
Yeah, such as the hobby.
Yep.
100%. And that's why I think it's so much different too. Not that I want to be a bigger speaker guy, but I'm just not, because I don't have that luxury. But I mean, that's the biggest difference from speakers to something as personal like this. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more factors in this than, not to say there's not with speakers, the room, the space, all of that factors in. But yeah, your own headspace, that's a big factor.
And it's here. I think it's one of the things I've really been messing, because I've been messing with my speakers a lot, and I got this new Wim little DAC streamer thingy. I use it as a streamer, but it also has room correction in it and EQ stuff. And I think EQ matters more for speakers than it does, because it's doing room correction. It's doing the reverbs from the sound waves as they come across.
Right.
Anyways, I do feel like, back to the headphone aspect, or IEMs even, because it's so isolating and because it's so personal feeling, I think that people, like, maybe I'm being weird about this, but like, I feel like they do take it more personally. Like, it becomes more a part of their, like, I heard this, and therefore I heard this. Like, you had to hear this too, because I heard it, right? Like, and not that that's a bad thing, but I think that you need to realize that because you heard it, you have to also take into the factors that I was just talking about before, like your own biases, your own feelings, your own, experiences in life, and how that factored. Like, how many real life guitars have you heard? And that will factor as well. Like, how many times have you heard someone practice bass guitar and or listen to a symphony multiple times? And that will factor into how that sound perceived to you is accurate or not, or how much you enjoyed it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I was looking at your comments too to see if there's anything else.
Mostly just
the DIY ones. He was asking the DYI. Sorry, DYI. I think that was when you were talking about ETA, maybe.
So ETA. So it's literally like estimated time of arrival. ETA. I don't think that's the actual acronym that they're using, but it's the same. ETA they do a bunch of really cool 3D printed stuff. They tend to sell out really fast when they do. So those guys are doing really cool things in that DIY space. Murph Designs, I think, but it's Murph One, the Murph One, MIRPH TAC 1, and he does some really cool stuff. His I think is what in my video I talk about it, like where I felt like when I heard those, it's how I wanted when I first got into the hobby, when everyone's explaining how the HD650 sounded. That's the way his sounded, is what I was expecting the HD650 to sound like back when I first got into it and got HD650. But that's purely a personal thing and a very biased, subjective. Like, that's my opinion, right?
Sure.
So, and then you have the HFA, HiFi for All, Dahlia, and that's the one that's the one that I can't wait to get one in and have it, because it will probably be the thing that replaces my Sennheisers for all my gaming needs.
Well, the price is so damn good on it too. I mean, subjectively, I think the price is very good on it. So
yes, so those are the DIY ones that I have off the top of my head that I can think of. but there's more people like that too. Like, so the niche that I was talking about, the Pietis Maximus. So what? It's one guy, Christian. He's working with shit, SCHIIT, not the bad word, and and some other people too. He has some really cool stuff that he's building and putting out. He basically, his idea is to take things that don't make sense for like a big market because they're too niche. So he's willing to take the time to actually build out some of these designs that other companies have like let go or don't do, or were kind of like concepts but never actually came to fruition. And that's the Pietis or Pietis. He has a little Pietis, like basically based off the little shit amp, and then you have the Maximus, which is like the bigger one, and then he has a it's actually the sibling to my favorite of all time, the T4, the ECP T4, but it's the 3FN, I think, and it has a really cool wood design on the side, but it's a solid state that's really nice. And that's expensive though; it's like a 2,000 plus amp.
Yeah, no, he's making some really good stuff, and I still have yet to, like, I've listened to the Pietis at, I think, Can Jam or something, but I don't count that. I'd love to get it like in at some point just to hear, or just buy one of the two.
It's an impressive little. I mean, that's actually I'm using right now with my, of all things, I'm using it with my Campfire Audio Andromeda Golds, or blacks. Sorry, they're black or golds. I think they're golds, but they're like a black with the gold highlights. But they have the Maximus has a low, medium, and high gain. And the low, I mean, I have no noise with the Andromedas. And if you know anything about Andromedas from Campfire Audio,
yeah, a lot of Campfire stuff.
And so, like, I'm no problem, which is a super impressive, because then it goes to high and it powers my HD800s, my ZMFs. It powers, like, it's everything. And then you go to medium for like your Cost Porta Pros, to the 105s, the 109s from Meze. You know, like, it's wild. Like, it's a very versatile little all-in-one amp DAC setup. So
nice. Yeah, I actually got I mean, going along the lines of shit, that's actually what I'm using to do the stream with the gunner that I've got.
The gunner,
I'm doing dope, like I'm doing a dual purpose thing. I'm not going to lie, because I want to do my review on it. So I purposely wanted to use it during this live to see how the audio was, and so far, I mean, everything's been great.
Right. What mic are you using? Is that the Meze Boom?
And I mean, yes, this is the Meze Boom. Now, I'm glad you asked that, because I actually reached out to Zach and I was like, have you ever considered just like marketing like something like the Boca Open or Closed with your gaming mic? Is just like here's a package. I think you should.
I mean, the Boca I have, I mean, where's my...
They're incredible for gaming. Like,
the force is not strong with me. Dude, mine, I have Bocas with the gaming mic, and it's, yeah, dope. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's rough because then you have used to having these mics, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I know, this is sounding fine. So yeah, it's a good little amp for, like, that's really, it's my recommended gaming amp now. When people ask me, I'm like, go for the gunner. It's a little over $200 and it's made solid.
Yeah. Actually, it's one of the ones I recommend to people when I get like non-audiophile people, like, hey, I game a lot, or I have a bunch of gaming buddies, and what should I get? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm always like, that one, the gunner, and or the Element is my other top amps I recommend. So stuff from the shit and the JDS Labs guys, I think that's like for your everyday normal like person who's just getting into like for gaming or like basic general listening.
Yeah,
Josh,
100%.
DHSA 3FN is exactly what I was talking about. That thing is gorgeous too, man. Great amp. It's a beautiful sounding amp. It's actually the original, the DHSA 3FN. Say that 20 times fast. It was originally designed for, of all things, why I have this within reach, but it was the focals. It was actually designed for focals. Wow, this is not wanting to focus on the case. But I have my Stelios here. And that was what that was originally created for, but because it's so good that it works with everything, it's a fantastic amp. It's one of the best solid states.
Also read Matthew talking about the Cord Hugo 2. You've got one of the Which one do you have?
TT2.
I want to say that for you.
I have
That's
a
right, TT2.
Yeah, fantastic. I love the TT2, and then the Cord Hugo 2 to go is fantastic. It's basically a mini version of the TT2, and it's much smaller. And then you can get like a bunch of add-ons for it. They like clip in. It's actually kind of a cool modular system that they have. And that is a fantastic little device. Like it's really good.
Yeah, they're another company that knows what they're doing, and they don't have to make a new product every year to keep doing it.
Yeah, I've been chatting with speaking to ETA Tom from the ETA guys. He goes by Gaz on the Discords here, and he has a TT2 in right now, and he's just been like, dude, I didn't know this was so good. And I'm like, dude, it's a fantastic. Honestly, like I mean, I still have it. It's literally in my chain. Like it's my main DAC that I use for headphones. On a daily basis. So if that tells you anything, I still think it's expensive as all get out, but like for like an all-in-one that just does everything that I want it to do, like do I buy like a ton? If I was to just say I want to be done and I want the best of the best of the best for an all-in-one on my desktop and no money is no object, I would say the TT2 is the one to grab. I don't think the M scaler is necessary unless you're into doing scaling. So like you do hence this name scaler, but it does the I'm not into it, so I can't think of the name right now off the top of my head. It's the oversampling. Brain.
Oh, right.
Brain
okay.
Good. Yeah. But me big dumb.
No, I got you. I know what you mean.
But yeah, the oversampling. So like if you were into oversampling, the M scaler basically takes that away and does it all for you, so you don't need like a PC for it. But if you were way into oversampling, technically the hollow audio stuff is actually the way to go. And then you have like a dedicated PC, and you what's that software called? It's like the oversampling software for you. Basically you set it up onto a PC and it does like crazy DSD, and like it's a whole other hobby just to oversample to like the highest amount.
Yes, it is.
HQ player, thank you, Matty.
Yeah, and the funny thing is with the hollow stuff is like I tried it as soon as I got my Cyan 2 hooked up to my streamer and all of that. I was just like, all right, let's see what this oversampling is all about. And I still stick to non-oversampling after all of that.
Same.
I don't know. I just still think it's the best for me anyway.
I'm the same way. NOS is the way to go, man.
Yeah.
Josh, so I do find, so like the Dave, which is the top of the line Cord DAC, and it's like a $10,000 DAC. That's too dry and clinical for me. I prefer the TT2. The Qtist, I believe, is similar to the TT2 as well, but I do believe it's a slightly more clinical sound over the TT2. And I would say the closest would be the Hugo. The Hugo and the TT2 are the most similar, and even the Mojo I think is even pretty close to that house sound of that. Whereas I think the Qtist and the Dave share more similarities, where they're more dry and like clinical sounding. That being said, Cord can come off as clinical over something even like the hollow audio stuff. So yeah, it just depends on how you perceive things.
I've been so close multiple times to buying a Mojo 2. And I mean, it's such a good device, but like you were saying earlier, I've found myself with like 3 or 4 different portable devices now. And I'm like, I don't need another portable device, but the Mojo 2 is really good. That's for sure.
It is. It's fantastic little device. But like you just said, like I just have too many. I mean, that is the downfall of doing YouTube audiophile stuff or anything YouTube. I'm sure like it probably gets stacked up with random stuff, but yeah, it's wild. I was gonna say, so you see on the Bay Audio Enclave, I think was it Beef put up like how many headphones, how many IEMs do you have, that kind of thing, and I was like,
yeah,
oh.
I had to count. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I had no idea. I was like, crap.
And then IEMs. I have so many IEMs just in my closet because it's just like, and I'm just like, dude, I don't even like IEMs, and I give them away like all the time as gifts, and it's just because they're so cheap. It's easy gift kind of thing. But like I'm down to like just to buy for IEMs. All I have now are like the ones that I actually like just enjoy more or less. So
Right.
Yeah, wild.
Yeah, it's funny how easy things start to stack up. So I just noticed, Caesar, how much better are the ETA than the Porta Pros? I'll let you answer that.
It's a significant step up. I would say
Mhm.
it's a fairly significant step up. Like it's definitely, it's like going from like a Sennheiser HD650 to a H, or not Atrium, but like a Boca. It's like that level of step up. It's like a going from like a $200 headphone to a $8 to $1,000 headphone. I'd say it's a significant jump in performance, and then the way that those guys tune. So I'm so mad actually. So I think I told you about this, Skeeb. Like I actually did an interview with Ev, who does all the tuning for ETA,
Right.
and Tom, who's the Gaz, and I got to the point where I finished recording. We did the whole video, and it was just us chatting about their up and coming stuff and what they're up to. Next day, I go in to start editing and get it. Not that I need to edit too much because it's kind of just like a like this, but just pre-recorded. And all the audio was corrupted. Like I was just like, everybody sounded like they're underwater, and I was just like, what happened? And I was, I'm just so frustrated. But that being said, hopefully I get another video with those guys. But Ev, he's their tuner, and so that's the other piece, right? You have someone that's super passionate about tuning headphones and like tuning things, like getting the sound to the way he wants it. So like the ADA, is very mid-centric, and I'd say it's kind of like the on-ear version of, say, like a Tour from ZMF, but like a smaller whatnot kind of. But that's the closest sound signature, but not quite as good as the Tour, I'd say. But for a couple $100, that's a pretty fantastic device or headphone. And then the O2 would be more of a balance, and it's a couple $100 as well. But you have to realize it's 3D printed. I just go to their website, ETA Audio. I think just Google that, and you'll see. Like they have like a very unique look. They do everything 3D printed, but it's definitely a step up, though.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, I remember when I listened to it, yes, it reminded me of a Porta Pro because that like signature was there, but there's a lot more to it than just the signature, details,
the
resolution,
detail,
all that
the
other
imaging,
stuff. Yeah,
the staging, that kind of stuff. The way that how rich the mids and lows can be, or how smooth or bright the highs can be, that kind of thing, all factor. You heard their purple. Remember the one that they're using that's like the new one that was housed in like a crazy. It was like the unique one. It had the purple driver.
I'm trying to remember if that was the one that I listened to that I know he said it wasn't quite ready. There was something with the impedance that they were trying to figure out with it. If that's what you're referring to.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one I heard on the Tube Mini, I remember. And I was like, whoa.
It had a lot of weight. Like there was like a lot of weight to it. Like they're using a really cool proprietary driver. And that's what we were talking about for that video. And I'm just like, God. So hopefully we get it back on here and get another video talk with those guys. Hopefully all three, because there's three of the gentlemen that are there. You have Tom, Tommy, and Ev. And fantastic guys. Super, super chill. They all have separate jobs. I think Ev is actually doing this full time, just doing the tuning and doing it. But then the other two gents are doing dual job kind of thing as a keep it afloat.
Right. Yeah, that's cool.
And yes, Caesar, they sell out. As soon as they put something up, it's usually they sell out fast. So just be ready for that. Sorry.
Yeah, I find that to happen with a lot of these, like, I don't want to call them startups, but you know what I mean? Just like small, not big wide companies. Cause I saw the same thing with HiFi for All with this Dahlia, and you don't even want to talk about tungsten.
One person making
mad at this point. Yeah, it's hard.
It's just they have to keep up with it, and especially they get popular if they're really good. It's like so.
Yeah, for sure. That was actually you had mentioned about ETA and doing 3D printed things. That was actually something else I brought up that I was curious to get your take on, that we've talked about, but not like in this format, is just how important and how much of the equation is build like comfort, I think anybody would say comfort's important, but how important do you think it build as well? And I brought that up because that thing I got behind me, the Aria Unveiled.
You know how I feel about
Yeah.
HiFi, so
No, I know that, yeah.
But like,
But I just mean in general, because they're not the only ones guilty of that.
No, I agree. I think build matters. Like, right? So, like, if you have people that are passionate about, like, no offense to the ETA guys, like, they're passionate about the sound. Like, they're passionate about sound, how it sounds. That matters. That's top in their opinion. Like, that's what they care about the most right now. You know, the build quality will get there as they become more popular and they have more resources to build out and they get more custom proprietary components that they can start making for their headphones. And as they get more access to better 3D printers or better manufacturing, that kind of stuff. So I think that's important. That being said, for personally me, I would say comfort's probably outside of sound. So we're removing sound from the equation. We're just talking about comfort, build, and aesthetic, I'm assuming, right? Comfort, and build, and then aesthetic matter the most to me. So like comfort's probably number one. As long as it's comfortable, because I'm not looking at these things all the time. If they're on my head, I'm not seeing them, right? So
Exactly.
Comfort's number one. And then I would say build quality. Like, how long would these last? How confident am I that I'm not going to break these by, like, you know, I randomly am stupid and I'm drinking whiskey and I'm having a chill ass night and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I need to go to the bathroom, and I get up and they jerk off my head and are they going to fall apart? You know, there's that kind of thing, right? So that's the build aspect of it.
Right.
How confident am I in the build? That would be right up there with comfort, to be honest. I'd say that's probably almost equal to comfort. And then aesthetic, shockingly, is very high for me as well. Personally, I need to like what I'm looking at. I need to like what I'm holding. You know, like there's as well, like the feel, touch, look factors heavily for me personally. That being said, I know that's a bias for myself. So aesthetic would probably be lower on that line. But I mean, it's kind of like God, is a bad analogy. What would be another one? I'm trying to think of something that would work for that. Like a car. A car is a perfect example, right? You're gonna go to a car. You're gonna go car shopping. Do you think all those guys that are driving minivans were like, minivan? That's
that's for me.
Let's do this. That's sexy. That minivan. Woo. Ugh, like,
yeah,
you know what I mean. But its build and its what its capabilities are and its functionality are top notch, right? And its driving, it's like all that are top notch for a minivan. But aesthetically, it's like,
I think, you know, and I'm not speaking for every company, of course, when I say this, but I can tell sometimes how much build matters to a company by their description they put on their website. Because like you go to ZMF and obviously Zach's all about the wood, the type of wood it is, the process. He's got videos on the machining process. He's passionate about, you know, how he makes every headphone and how he comes up with every headphone. Meze is the same way. They will go through a whole regimen of how they came up with parts and how everything's serviceable. Focal does the same thing as well. And I say that only because when I went to HiFi site, when I was doing one of the videos I was doing on a review, I was just metal chassis, like, or sometimes not even that, just a well-built chassis. I'm like, of what? So that's where and I'm not trying to, well, yeah, I am trying to pick on HiFi because I'm bothered by it. Yeah, exactly. It's like, own it. You know, if you're going to go cheap out on something, just at least own it and tell us what we're getting.
Yeah. Dude, but I think the HiFi, you've had them, the HiFi catheter cables.
Yeah, they have gotten better on that. I will admit that the newest cable for the Unveiled is it's fine. I still wouldn't use it, but it's fine. But yeah, I mean, it's true. And cables, I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's another thing too. Whether or not you buy into sound making a difference, that's fine. I get that.
But the quality of a cable, the way it folds and falls and it sits on the desk or holds in your hand, like that factors heavily in a cable, man.
It does. I wish I had one of the Meze cables with me because that's my only complaint about some of the older Meze stuff was I remember when I got my 109 Pro, I was like, what the hell is this? It was like a spider web, just like
Dude, no, the worst. I hope I have it in here. The worst, one of the worst, outside of the Hi-Fi Man Focal. I do. It's in here.
Yes.
The
Yes, I do
goddamn
remember that.
vacuum cleaner from the '70s cable, dude, or like the lampshade cable from the '70s. Like that's
Yep.
Focal. Like this is their cable. Like it's pretty. It looks cool, but look how jank that is, dude. Like it's just
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we gotta wear this stuff. It's gotta sit with us.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like the Focal cable, like outside of the weird like memory, like I mean, look at that. It's literally holding its shape. But outside of that, like the materials are fine. Like they feel nice. The materials are actually solid, but the overall cable itself is just
Right. Yeah, that's why I say like some companies. I'm very happy that they listen. Like I was talking about Meze. I've been impressed with like some of their higher end headphones, granted, but they're including like these high end cables with them now. And I think they should. I think if you're going to charge like $2 or $3 grand for something,
well, I mean,
give
even
us
this
something.
one. So this is interesting. So this is the 105, obviously, and it comes with the gaming one. So it has like this crazy split. Oh, this will actually come on camera. But there's actually volume. There's a volume control, and it's solid. It's actually it feels really nice as a little mute like toggle, and then the volume like scroll is solid, man. That's actually really nice. It's a chonker.
It is.
It's chonky, but then the cable itself has some memory to it. But as far as like a cheap gaming cable or a cheap cable that comes with, I have no issues with it. I mean, it's a little bit jank for sure, but
no, my only problem when I first used it was at first I was like, oh, that's kind of long. But the more I thought about it for gamers, that's probably pretty smart to make it a little bit longer because people get animated when they're playing their video games and you don't want to damage something. Yeah, no, I'll tell you what's funny about this thing though, is I can't tell you how many times that I've not used it for a while and I'll plug it in and I'm like messing around with something. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with my volume? And I start messing with my amps. I've unplugged stuff and then I figure out it's the dial that's turned down too much or it's muted or whatever else.
100%, dude. Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's wild. It's funny. Yeah. But yeah, dude. Like speaking of gaming, so I think you're on the same page as me regarding this. Is like, gaming's probably outside of photography and art. So my main hobbies, I'm all over the place. I have so many hobbies. It's stupid. But my main one probably would be gaming. That's what I got into audiophile reasons for, like all this stuff. And so when I get into like high-end headphones or speakers, audio stuff, it's always comes down to how does this sound with gaming generally, right? And it's wild how many are not great at gaming.
Yeah.
And you'd think like these high-end headphones would be like, oh, these are amazing. And they'd be like, but they're just not good at gaming. Like the Focals are horrible at gaming. I mean, they're not horrible. That's a little egregious, but like they're not the best.
Intimate headphones are not. Just not. You just need more immersion factor. You need more space. And it's funny, but I have found, at least from what I've sampled on things, like brighter headphones a lot of times can be pretty good.
Yeah.
Because of picking out different things in video games. But then also bass cannons can be very bad.
Yeah.
Because then you don't hear anything else if there's a lot of explosions and stuff going on.
Depends on if you're playing like an RPG or like a solo. I would say bass cannons can be fun. Like that can
it can definitely be fun.
Vibe. These are so cheap. They're such plastic, junky things. Now, especially the older versions were so much better. Like if you can get the yellow ones that weren't this EPOS version. These are the drop EPOS. Like they were the Sennheiser PC37X and 38X. The EPOS, once the EPOS got them, they became kind of plasticky, junky. Like the build quality is lacking heavily. Comfort's great, sound is great, mic is great, cable's fine, but the actual overall build quality is very plasticky and toy-y. But these are fantastic for gaming as well. Not the best, but for the price, hard to beat. This is a shocker actually for me. Like, what's your I want to ask you top 3 headphones for gaming.
That would depend on price point.
No, from $0 to $2,000.
Oh wow. Okay. Um, you know, as funny as it is, I know everybody talks about the 800S for this big wide soundstage. I just need bass, and I don't get it for the 800S, so that kind of rules it out for me because I'm not a big, like, I don't play games to be competitive. So I still say, I just brought that up because when you said up to 2,000, that always comes to mind because it's like one of the most expensive ones. No, honestly, and this is no lie. If you get a chance to try them, because I know kind of like HiFi Men, you feel the same way about Bayer, if I'm correct. But the Bayer Dynamic,
they're right.
The MMX 330 Pro, and I need to listen to the 300 one. That's the closeback. Those are really, really good. And they did some fixing with the treble spikes and things on them. And I was very impressed with that gaming headset for $300. And like when anybody asks me about $300, honestly, it makes my top list of what you're talking about. For something under $500, I'd recommend that. For 1,000 to 2,000, I mean, man, I would have to say these are really good for open back, and I know your Boca closed are really good for closed back.
Fantastic for gaming.
And I haven't heard the Dahlia enough, and I haven't played a video game with the Dahlia to comment on that. But these, I got to say, for expensive, are really good for gaming. And then I'd have to say on the low end, the Porta Pros, man.
Yeah,
they're fun for gaming.
Dude, they're so good for gaming. And if you get the one with the little mic too, like there you go, you're done. You just plug into your controller. If you're a console gamer, the Porta Pros with the mic.
Yep, there's my like budget to $1,000. Only because I'm 1,000 to 2,000. I have to really think about it. I'm not sure right now.
That's fair. So for me, I would be definitely for like the low end. You kind of, God, I was gonna say those EPOS PC38Xs, those are really fantastic. But if I was going to go proper budget, I agree with you. The Cost Porta Pros are stupid good, especially for console gaming where you just plug right into your controller. Fantastic. Mid tier, I'd say, and by mid tier, I'm going like 0 to 1,000. Under $1,000 would be the Dahlia. Those are honestly probably my favorite of all time. I do use the HG800s. I have the SDR modded ones. And then for like top gaming, I'd say something like the Atrium, but really the VC or the VO is also really good for high end gaming, just because it's so fast. It has such a good staging, and it's like got that bass, it's got the detail. But there's a bogey that I'm actually mad because I actually broke it because I sat on them on accident and I broke the thing. But I have HC700s, and the HC700s before the Dahlia. The HC700 was my go-to gaming headphone. So I'm actually getting a 3D printer in hopefully soon. Hopefully my daughter doesn't hear me say that, but because she's super excited, she wants a 3D printer really bad. But I'm hoping to be able to create some kind of like headphone thing to maybe fix it with because it's to replace that little piece on that broke for me. It's like they want me to basically pay for a brand new headphone. I'm like, well, why would I do? Yeah, like because they don't make them anymore. But I'm like, dude, this is like a 10-cent part. It's like a little plastic part that I need to replace, and it's like, But anyways, but yeah, I'd say if you can find HC700 for under like around the $300 mark, that to me is like one of the best gaming sleeper gaming headphones out there. But yeah,
I know a lot of people at least used to recommend it was the Bayer Dynamic, and I want to say it was I always get this wrong because they had 3 generations of them: T1, T2, T3. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
The T series is really good on the Bayer Dynamics.
Yeah, I remember those were always recommended for like something close to $1,000.
Those are really fantastic. And Matthew, so he recommends Sundaras, and so I really like the Sundaras. My problem with the Sundaras was that there was so much unit variance. It was hard for me to like properly, touch like specific. Like sometimes there'd be so like, I don't know. It was weird, man. Sundaras were fantastic. I heard one. I was like completely in love with it. I got another Sundara in to hear for randomly. I don't think I ever did a video on them, but like, and it was weird. Like I went through 3 different Sindaras, or I've heard 3 different Sindaras, and each one sounded different to me. Like it was weird. Maybe it was just my headspace, my head changing the EQ of it or whatever. But the Sindaras are fantastic, especially for the price. And then he mentions the Zeos Aris, and my buddy, it's over there. So he loves it for gaming, the Aris, and he says it's a bass, super bassy headphone. That's the Zeos Aris. And a Grumpy Goose. So the guy that does the Grumpy Goose headphone stands.
Yep.
He was. I chat with him all the time, and so like he was like, dude, I love these for gaming. It's fantastic. And so I think he's mostly a single player guy as well, and he just loves them. So something also to keep in mind. I think he even started a YouTube video where he did like a talk about it.
Yeah, he did.
So yeah. But yeah, I think that's I agree. Like things with the good bass, like a solid bass, are fantastic, especially for single player, and like that immersion factor is huge. And you can't. People always focus on the pro, like the pro, or I'm competitive, and it's like, are you? Because if you're not, like, go for immersion. Yeah. Immersion is way more fun, and that's more bass, more mids. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I got to say, like, if we were talking like money, no option type thing and just be nuts about it, I like one day I want to own a Caldera closed. I'm jealous because I think you own one. That's still the best headphone I've heard for a closed back, man. And yeah, of course it was excellent for gaming. It was excellent for everything, but I loved that headphone.
Actually, I've been using it actually for gaming a lot recently.
Yeah, it's obviously overkill, but so what if you have it?
Yeah. I will say the Caldera, it's like I'm gonna probably make, hopefully I don't make anybody mad. It's not my intent. I'm not a planar guy. I'm just not a planar guy. Right. So like I love the Caldera closed. I love the Caldera open. I felt that the Calderas were some of the best planars outside of the Rad Zeros from Alex Rosin. For planars that I actually properly enjoyed. Like there's a couple like the LCDs were pretty good. Some of the the Odyssey LCDs were pretty decent. I actually enjoyed their gaming one. What's that one? The
the GX, I think.
No, there's
something like that.
GX. I had the GX. I like that one, but there's the new one. The
the Maxwell.
And that one's pretty. Yeah. That's really good for Bluetooth, like headphone. Like that, it is. Honestly, that's amazing. Like that's hard to beat. Like that one's ridiculously hard to beat. And before they had the Maxwell, I actually had it. Was the actually just gave it to a buddy. The prior to the Maxwell, they had another one, and it was like this. It was the first one with surround sound and everything like that, and it was fantastic. That was another good one. That was really cool. It had like built-in head tracking, and it was crazy. It was a cool technology for it. But back to the Caldera and Caldera Open. I would rather listen to Zach's dynamic drivers over the Caldera and the Caldera closed. But that's just me being anti-planar for whatever reason. I'm not anti. That's not fair. Like I just, for whatever reason, they just don't sound as natural to me. You know, so it's not that they're bad. It's
right.
Just, and this fully goes into the subjective world, right? Where it's like,
oh yeah.
For me, there's this weird separation of like they almost sound fake. There's parts of them that just sound fake to me. I love that dynamic driver sound. It just sounds more realistic to me for whatever reason. It sounds more warm, more rich. Whereas the planars tend to be a little more crisp, a little more like cut, like where there's like they're very fast and they're very like plucked sound. Just sounds sometimes.
To me, it's like. I always think of it, and I know it's very general, but I always think of it as like dynamic drivers being more colored and planars being like more black and white. But it's not. I mean, it's definitely not. But I mean, that's kind of the way I look at it a little bit.
Oh, that's fair. I could see that as a, yeah, I could see that as a good comparison, like as a way to kind of describe it. Because like the planars tend to be, like I said, there's that. So what it is the transients are so fast in planars that so that when I say transients, like the sound of a note happening, like so let's say the plucked sound of a guitar, it's like pluck and then it's gone. Whereas with the transient of a like a basic, like a normal headphone dynamic driver, it resonates. It'll burn, like almost like a guitar. Like, right, if you look at a guitar and you see it strum, it does a woo, and that to me is like what a woofer does, like in a dynamic driver. Whereas a planar would just go boom and it's done, and so it does the note and then the note's gone. And so
Right.
it's very crisp. That's what I mean by crisp. Like it's very like if you're like a sushi chef and you're, or like you're a chef and you're just chopping through like a celery or a carrot, or like that's a planar versus something that's like you're, instead of filleting a fish, you're chopping vegetables.
Right. You're gonna love when I tell you this, because it was funny to me. So when I first got the Aria Organic, and I own it, I love it. I still like that headphone a lot, but I know it's planar. I remember I let Bree listen to it, and she was listening to some, I can't remember, one of her vocal focused music, and she was blown away by it. She's like, wow, this is so like clear and crystal. But it was way back when she wasn't really listening to stuff with me. And so now I've got this video series we do. We have some fun with it, where she tries out different headphones, and she's been listening to a lot of stuff. And so I've got this, and she's going to listen to the Organic, and she was also listening to the O2 Classic. And so I had her listening to that for a little bit, and then I gave her the Organic again. I was like, you remember this one? She's like, not really. And I was like, all right, well, here you go. Go ahead and have some fun. Listen to it. Tell me what you think. And spoiler for that, but she came back to me and she's like, I don't know what it is, but it doesn't sound natural. And I just laughed. I was like, you sound like Tyler. I was like, but you're right. I mean, that's the whole planar thing. She's like, yeah, the vocals just, she's like, everything's really clear and beautiful. She said, but it's not, I don't get emotion out of it like I did listening to the O2 Classic. And I was like, there you go. She's probably a dynamic driver person.
And so I grew up with dynamic drivers, obviously. Like I had, like, well, my stepmom grew up, she was a bass player. So she was a classically trained bass, stand-up bass orchestras. She had electric basses. She was in blues, bluegrass, rock and roll. She was in symphonies, orchestras. She was like, so every weekend we were out doing some crazy gig. Either we're doing a symphony or we're at some bar, and she's, jamming out to some bluegrass or some blues or jazz, or in a rock and roll band. And she's just, so we'd go and listen. So to me, like when I hear bass, especially, like that's my reference point. Like listening to her play live was is my reference point. And so that's where I get that, you know what I mean? So like, that's when I talk about like going back, like everyone's experiences are different. And with that, my reference points and everyone's reference points are different, that's that, and it's funny, but yeah, I agree with Bree.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it is like, and you brought up bass, and I think that's a really good point, because sometimes people will ask me questions about, well, how is the bass? And I was like, well, I'll try to tell them, well, it's a planar bass, not a dynamic bass. And until you hear it, you completely understand what that means once you hear both versions, because there is definitely a difference in the two.
I would say dynamic bass tends to rattle your head.
Yep.
But planar bass can be more impactful, if that makes sense.
Bree must be watching. I just saw a smiley face from her.
Oh yeah. But yeah, like I think that's it. Like the planar has that big driver, like boom. So you hear this, like it's almost like and that's that unnaturalness. I think part of it is like this big like boom, but it's not that. Doesn't make your chest, like, have you ever been in a car, like a car competition stereo, like where you have a bunch of woofers behind you and your heart feels like it's going to pop out of its chest with the woofer, like that's dynamic driver, where the planar would have that sound but not that air movement, not that pressure, like, and so like that, I think that's where it comes from. Very
felt, not so much anything else.
So Matthew mentions if I would like the raw Amanis. I actually listened to him at Can Jam SoCal, and I did enjoy those. I'm actually a fan of raws. I really love the raw stuff. I used to have the SR1As.
It's cool stuff.
And I love the SR1As. But the SR1As are basically this KEFs that I have behind me. So the KEFs replace the SR1As. So for me, the SR1As were basically, if you were to take those KEFs and put them on your head, that's what they sounded like to me. With like and then you could add subwoofer and whatever, but like that's what the SR1As are. And so the Amanis were basically that same kind of concept, and they actually remind me more of I'd say they're like a weird mix of planar meets dynamic driver to some level. Like it's this weird medium,
Yes.
and they're
Yes.
fantastic, dude. Like they sound really good. They're
Yeah.
just stupid expensive. And here's
Yeah.
one of my other problems I have with stuff like that is like, hey, what's up, Crypto Color Lights? Like, but the problem I have with something like the SR1As, and I even with the in general SR or the like just that. Anytime I have to have dedicated speakers or dedicated amps or dedicated things for one thing, it tends to make me like.
I agree.
So that's when I have hangups. So
I agree. Somebody asked me a while back if I was ever considering getting an electrostat, and I said probably not, because I don't want to have just one thing that I can plug it into.
yeah, then you're just stuck in. You're like painting yourself into a corner to some level, right? And like I'm just not that guy. Like I name myself Tyler's Eclectic for a reason. I love diversity. I love like I love trying things. Like it's one of my favorite things of all time in life is experiencing new things. Like that to me is what it's all about. Like I want to experience as much as possible. And then so like to shoehorn myself into one little aspect is rough for me. So
Right.
not to say it's not
Yeah,
good.
but I agree with you though. I listened to the minus whatever, however it's pronounced at Can Jam, and that was still like the best thing I heard there, but admittedly for the price is like, all right. But also just the detailing, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a very beautifully designed headphone.
Yeah. So one of the things that they do is, so it's a ribbon speaker, right? So it's a ribbon driver.
Right.
And so with that, what it comes down to is like it almost grabs like, which we just kind of nailed, is that it's almost like an E-stat meets dynamic driver meets planar. It's like mashed all into one, and that's like the ribbons. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if somebody wants to send me one with a Viva amp, sure, I'll take it.
I'm not gonna tell you no, because they're beautiful. They look beautiful. They sound beautiful. Like the materials are great. Like honestly, like that's an experience. Like it is an experience to listen to that setup or those type of things. Yeah. Crypto. Let's see. He says, "Do you guys try all them headphones you guys have been playing on Call of Duty?" So I haven't played Call of Duty in a bit, but I have. I did the HFA Dahlia on Call of Duty. I tried the Murphs. I tried some other stuff. And I would say my favorites for Call of Duty would be the HFA Dahlia. HD800 would be another one. It's fantastic for like if you're like wanting to be super competitive. HD700s. And honestly, even the PC38X is fantastic for a cheap, like if you're on console, like playing on PlayStation or Xbox. PC38X is fantastic with the little adapter for playing on console.
Yeah.
But my favorite would probably be the Dahlia, and then HD800s if you have the power to run it on a PC. So I guess that's it. If you're on console, PC3 7X or 38X. If you're on PC and you have an amp that can power it, I'd say Dahlia, H800s, and or HD700s. For me,
yeah,
personally.
and for me, you know, I guess the one thing I didn't mention I should have is one of the reasons that I kept the organic is I like the organic for gaming because they do have a nice amount of bass to them, and like I said, the top end, and it's got nice space and stage to it as well and width, so it's a lot of fun to game with for a planar. So I guess I didn't think about that for $1,000. That's planar level is pretty damn good, and yeah, like I said, this thing is really good for me with gaming. But I'll be curious to see your thoughts when you listen to the 105 AER, because for a Meze, like the AER, it stands for air, and it does have some spaciousness to it, and it is fun with gaming. So for that price,
I've just been playing. I've only played so far. The only game I play with it so far or two games is I've been playing Cyberpunk 2077 and then
nice.
Marvel Rivals. Those are only two games I played so far with it.
Nice.
It was fun. Marvel Rivals is like basically Overwatch, so I don't really think that there's too much audio design in that for like competitive reasons. But I will say I did pick up like it saved me a couple times where I was playing as Punisher, and I was like, I was peeping corners, and there's always like little different avenues everywhere. Excuse me. And I heard somebody coming up the back, like coming up to the side and around me, and I was like, whoop! I came around, switched to shotgun, and got him. But like, so yeah, I would say the ARs are actually pretty good, but it just based off that little interaction there. But yeah.
Yeah, somebody asked a while back, I don't know who it was. I think Josh did. Yeah. What are your favorite games right now? So you said Cyberpunk, Marvel Rivals. I know you hate Destiny.
I'm actually moving towards I play a lot. Dude, I have thousands of hours in Destiny. But yeah. Helldivers. I mean, I'll shut off right now. But I play a lot, man. I'm trying to beat Cyberpunk. So my problem is I get into a game like Cyberpunk and I go hard in the sense that I have to clear the map. Like I do literally everything before. Yep. Like so Witcher 3, I literally got every single achievement. I went to every single location. I found every single stupid water cache that was out in the water. Like I found, I mean, I was that guy. Like I OCD and go must hit everything and like do every single thing in one playthrough. And so that's me in Cyberpunk right now. I'm about my current playthrough. I'm about 200 hours into my current playthrough, and I'm just now getting to the main story. To give you an idea of how I play.
You know what's funny about that? I do that. I'm the same way, man. I do that a lot of times with games. But what I kick myself for is by doing that a lot of times, you like power level yourself so much. When you get to the story, you're just like, boop, dead. And like, dang, man, I bet this was challenging a few levels ago.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, I've been playing Path of Exile, Path of Exile 2. I think it's kicking my ass.
I hear that's really hard.
I don't know, maybe it's because I'm older, but or maybe I just picked the wrong class, or I don't know what. But
I hear melee is not great. Like, they're not good at melee.
No, I picked a monk.
Okay.
And
they said monk's like the worst. That's what I heard.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding out. But I like a challenge, but it's gotten to a point a couple of times where I'm like, I'm done. I've shut it down. But it's good. It is probably like I put the most time in any ARPG in Grim Dawn for myself. And I could see myself putting the amount of time in Path of Exile 2 just because it's hard. I want a challenge, but then there's also that breaking point of if it's too challenging, then I'm just forget it. I'm moving on.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Elden Ring. Elden Ring for me was just the right amount of challenge that it was damn fun and I was able to beat it.
I got to on Elden Ring, except once again exploring everything. I power leveled and I hit the weird power level creep moment. But I beat like some of the harder guys. The guy on the little tiny horse, I beat him. Oh yeah, those are gorgeous. That purple. They almost have like a skateboard.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt you. He was asking if they were all black, and yeah,
they have like a bluish purple and then purple top, or you can have a different color too. But Elden Ring, I got to the weird skin guys, the dual. There's a fat one and a skinny one, but they look like they have hanging skin. And I was like,
oh yeah,
I'm done. This I hit my threshold of like caring about.
So I have one thing of all games like I played, I am the most proud of with Elden Ring. I did an entire playthrough on that game without using any summons, like where you can summon like the things to help you. And like even my friends were like, just try a summon. I'm like, no, it's like this is my personal thing. Like I was so disappointed when I beat it. There was no achievement for it. I was like, they should make an achievement for that. But I tried to get back into it with the expansion, and I haven't been able to dedicate enough time. And I rolled a different class, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I have a buddy that's like hardcore in Elden Ring, and he redid a whole run. He got all the way through all of it, and then did the expansion. And he can't beat the final boss from the expansion. He's just like, I don't know what it is. It's just
I've heard.
And he's just like, I can't beat it. It's driving me nuts. And I've tried.
It's one of those games that like when I did boss fights, my son would like sit with me and watch me. And when he'd finally beat one, it'd just be like this, high fives left and right, or he'd be dead asleep because he's bored of dad dying.
Yeah. Wukong, dude. Wukong is fantastic. I haven't beaten it. I got to a point where my other buddies, I have a couple of buddies that I play games with from Hawaii and whatnot. In fact, Skeeby played with them with me at the
for Helldivers.
Yeah. And so they got me into playing what were we playing? The Marvel Rivals, and that pulled me away. And then I started playing Cyberpunk, and so I just haven't gone back. But I think I'm like 3/4 of the way through Wukong, and like there's definitely some moments there where you're like, oh, this, like, why is this so hard? But all of a sudden it clicks, and you like just, and that it's weird, man. The Wukong one's weird because I don't think it's as hard as Elden Ring, because I think once it clicks, like once your boss fight clicks, it's like, oh, and you can like cheese the hell out of them, or like there's certain parts, every boss has like some way to like not cheese per se, but like they just have a weakness that you can just exploit the hell out of, generally.
Right.
There's some that are really hard. There's one where you're a miniature. He miniaturized you, and you had to go fight him. And he's like this. He had like 3 stages, and it was like you beat one stage, and you're like barely hanging on. And then the next stage starts. You're like, oh, there's 2. Like, ah. And then you finally beat the second stage. You're like, yes, I beat him. And then he goes to a third, and you're like, what the? There's masochism, like there's a little bit of masochism, is that right? The right term for basically just beating your head against a wall for
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember some boss fights in Elden Ring like that where you think you're done and then they regen to something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I won't lie. I don't know if you do, but there are times, especially with Elden Ring, that I would have to finally just cave and look up some type of a guide. But I'm like, I'm one of those people that I don't want you to tell me every single part. I just want a general overview of a guide, and then I'll figure it out from there. Yeah, because I don't want to spoil it for myself. But
yeah, I don't want any story spoilers or any kind of mechanic spoilers overtly. But I want to know, like, if I get stuck, I want to know, like, am I at least approaching this right? Like,
right.
Give me a hint. Don't necessarily give me the answer.
Yeah, I haven't. He was asking him, about Wukong. I haven't played it yet. I do want to play it, and I'll probably play it once I upgrade my GPU this year, because that's on my docket to do.
Yeah. Oh, is it football? Do we go paste over football? Is that what's happening?
Oh yeah, yeah, we did.
My bad.
Oh well.
You can tell.
What's funny, man,
is guy.
Well, what's funny is I was huge in NFL and playing fantasy football up until I started my YouTube channel, and I don't even watch it anymore.
I played sports as a kid, and I just, for whatever reason, like it never clicked to like watch sports. I always liked playing them, but I never like even watching sports. I'd rather go play video games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that was always like I'll watch the big events. I like watching Olympics and stuff like that. But even then, like I just, I can go to YouTube, watch the highlights. UFC, I always liked watching UFC stuff, but once again, I can just go watch the highlights, and so I'd rather just go play video games.
Right. Yeah.
That's
I'm with you on that.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being a sports person. I think it's dope.
No, not at all. But I am curious about one thing. So talking about gaming, because I do agree with you. You said Marvel Rivals was a game that's like, there's probably not much to the sound engine. What are like your favorite, not even sound engine, but maybe just audio driven games that you've played? I'm curious.
What's wild is the first time I heard 3D spatial audio with head tracking was an Assassin's Creed game. It was the Origins game. And I remember I had these head-tracked headphones with 3D stereo, that kind of stuff. And sorry, I'm hearing my daughter and wife talking in the hallway.
You're good.
Yeah. And I could hear them with my headphones. Hopefully you guys can't hear them. But
no, I didn't hear anything.
But anyway, so I remember I was playing Origins, and I remember I was walking through this hallway, and there was a torch on the side of this hallway, right? Like, like to light the hallway. And I heard it as I walked past, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I remember I turned my head for some reason, and I heard it in a different perspective as I literally just turning my head. So like 3D, like head track 3D audio was like, and that was in Assassin's Creed Origins. But as far as just general audio across the board, I would say, of all things, Overwatch. Overwatch had this crazy good like height, like you could hear things above and below. Same with Halo, the most recent one. That was really good for audio design as far as like height and like depth, like behind you, like that actual proper 3D audio. This new Marvel Rivals is pretty good, but I don't think it's quite to the level of Overwatch. Call of Duty is pretty decent, but it's not my favorite, honestly. I think they do too much with the foot sounds because they're so focused on that it, like, you know what I mean.
No, they definitely are.
It loses some of the other aspects of it. But yeah, as far as just pure audio design, I would say the big Assassin's Creed games are always really good. Any of those big epics, I remember. What was another one I really? Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk's fantastic. I remember I'll be
dude,
flying through Cyberpunk, and I'll hear somebody talking as I go by, and I'll be like, "What did they just say?" And I'll turn around and go back and listen to the conversation of just like people talking on the street, but it's like this weird, like, or you hear the cars going by, like it's just, that's pretty wild. Cyberpunk's really good for that.
That's also a game that I actually found myself listening to the radio in the car on because I actually like the music in it too.
Yes. Yeah, I love the music in that game too, man. The music is. I have the actually, like you do too. You have the vinyl.
Yep.
Yeah. Fantastic, man. Love it. Yeah, that one's good. Like Cyberpunk's one of my tops as well. I mean, I'm literally, like right now I'm sitting at just shy of 400 hours total for all the different playthroughs I've done with it. But like, yeah.
Nice.
Fantastic game. Witcher is really good as well for that, just for general audio merge. But that one was kind of blown out though, so maybe not the best. Yeah. What about you? What games are you on top?
Well, I would say for me, I always go back to when I first got into the Battlefield series. I think Battlefield 3 actually was one of the best, like, just gunshot and war games I played, where it felt very immersive. And I don't think they, like you were saying with Call of Duty, I get that because I noticed the same thing when I would go to Battlefield 3 to Call of Duty. It's like, it's just different things you pick out, not necessarily what I want. Yeah. It's less immersion, more strategic, I guess.
Yeah. But Battlefield has a strategic though, because you can hear the footsteps, but it's not the main focus. It's wild. I know exactly what you're talking about now that I think about it. Like, now I want to go play Battlefield. Dang it, Skeeb.
Well, that's why I was disappointed with 2042. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't like it as much. The game itself I did, but the sound engine, I was like, what'd you guys do? Like, something's wrong with the sound engine in that one. I just didn't care for it. Red Dead Redemption 2 is really good as well. Yeah. When I finally got to play that one. And then as far as like a soundtrack goes, I would say the Divinity Original Sin 2 is still one of my favorite soundtrack type games. Like, when I can find a game that I don't mute the in-game music, that's a good thing, because I'm one of those rare people that, maybe not rare, but I'm one of those people that I like to listen to the in-game music and see what people create out of it. But if it's too repetitive, I'm like, no, mute.
Yep. Yeah.
I get what you're saying too about Overwatch. They did a really nice job with the sound engine on that one.
It was weird. Like, see, I didn't really play that much Overwatch either, but I remember that's how much it stuck with me though, because I remember hearing like people when they go flying up in the air, you could hear them. Like, I could pick them out in the air, or I could pick them out when they're like walking above me, or like like that was a big. Or if I was up high, I could hear them when they're. I could actually. It wasn't just like they're in the room with me. They're actually. I could tell that they're below me. You know what I mean? Like, there's an actual that kind of aspect. I will say gunshots, like Crypto keeps talking about, the gunshots in Call of Duty are pretty good. I think my favorite gunshot sounds, as far as like FPSs go, would be Battlefield 1. Was the old World War
One. Yeah.
That one had stupid good. Like, just, it was just fun.
That's what I'm saying. Their series in general, I think they were just really good up until the latest one. Who knows? Maybe I need to play it again.
There's that free one that came out, Delta Ops, I think. And that was pretty good. That's decent. I'd say for a free game, that one's pretty decent for like a Battlefield clone. It's like a mix of Battlefield and Call of Duty put into one. It's the Chinese developer that did that one. That was pretty decent.
I don't think I've heard of that one. I'll have to look that one up.
Delta Ops? I think it's Delta Ops.
Yeah.
It's free to play, one of those things. But yeah. I'm trying to think what other things. Those are pretty much the main ones for me right now. I have a bunch on my. It's funny. as far as like soundtracks go, one of my all-time favorites for soundtracks, it was a side. I'm a big side-scrolling guy. Like I love old school side-scroll because that's what I grew up with. I mean, that's my tattoos over here on my this arm are all old school Nintendo. I'll start showing it, but like, and so, but the game that has one of my all-time favorite one is super fun game to play. It's like a Metroidvania to some level, but it's Katana Zero, and that Katana Zero soundtrack is like it's a DJ like kind of like techno-y kind of thing. But dude, the beats just I get so drawn into those beats, and they make you amp you up, and you get all like way into it. You know, like it's that was a fantastic one for soundtrack wise.
And it's funny you say that because that's something I actually found myself doing. So I've got the Sound Blaster G8. I think I had talked to you a little bit about it, that new gaming amp from them. Mm-hmm. But they have the dual USB thing, which I was like, didn't really understand why that would be a big deal. But what I found myself doing with that was I would plug in my phone and listen to like EDM electronica music and then plug in the other half, to my DAC for the game and mute the game. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I was playing like Diablo 4 with, my own music in the background. That was fun.
Yeah, I agree. Like I'd play Destiny like that for like when I was just grinding out, like whatever. I'd put on my headphones and I'd cut the audio for the game and just listen to my music and just be like jamming out to music while just grinding out stupid chores. In-game chores.
You don't need the story for that stuff.
Yeah, wild. Let's see. Crypto ZMS all black, purple ones. Like the I have the Atriums are like that, or my big VCs. The VCs are that purple and black. Those are fantastic for gaming as well.
Those are.
He actually mentioned too, because I think you have these, right? The Dan Clark E3s.
Sold them. But yeah, I had them. Yeah.
And so he liked those for gaming. He was saying. I think I remember looking.
They were very good for gaming. I agree, especially for closed back because they're kind of like the Bokeh. They're closed back, but they sound open. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I forgot another one that is really good that I wouldn't mind owning, except I probably don't need them. Is the new Sennheiser 620S. I don't know if you've heard those. The closed back,
like the 700s from when I haven't heard them, but that's what everyone seems to say. They're not quite as good as the 660s, but they're better for gaming.
They are. They did a nice job of making them open sounding especially for a Sennheiser. And yeah, I played them with games, and that was one of the things I think I even said was like these are a good recommendation for a gaming headphone.
Nice,
and they are. They're really good.
Yeah,
good aesthetic too, like that all black.
I agree. Like when that's like the EPOSs or even these the 105s. Like I love that look. I'm trying to think. Like nothing really comes to mind right now, off the top of my head for like gaming outside of those things. But yeah, what's so out with the? I don't want to. I think we're already pushing towards an hour and 40. I don't want to keep you too long.
It's all right.
What's some other topics you're thinking? I remember you said you had a couple, but
sorry, I'm just looking at it. Well, okay. I'll just say this because I mean I do think it's I don't want to skirt around it. Just the drama stuff that's happened, and I don't want to pinpoint one particular thing because like I could, but I don't want to because it's not just in our hobby. You and I both chatted about that, and we both agree on that it seems to be just a thing, especially on YouTube. If you watch a lot of YouTube, that seems like everybody's growing after drama pieces these days because they want
watches.
Yeah, they want the clicks, they want the views, but at what cost? To them, they're like, "Oh, I'm gaining a lot of subscribers out of it." Okay, you're probably losing some too. Yeah. So
it's a hit or miss. I mean, I don't know. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was kind of just the topic of it. Like we've talked, but not in front like this. Like my take on it is, it annoys me. So to be honest,
I agree. I think here's the biggest thing I think that's missing from, and we're seeing a lot of it just in general right now. I don't want to get into like politics. I don't want to get into any specific drama. But I think the factor that happens when you do stuff like that is you dehumanize the opposition, if that makes sense. And anytime you start dehumanizing
Yes.
things or people, like, it's never good. Like, that never goes good for it's always a downward spiral. And it's not something that I like to take part in, or even like, I get mad about it. I'll defend, even if I don't agree with the people that you're dehumanizing. If you start dehumanizing somebody or something or some group, I will play devil's advocate to I'll naturally just gravitate towards that, because it's just, I don't agree with that aspect of the drama. And people get all hyped for it. You get the mob mentality, and so they'll start just dogpiling on people without realizing that, hey, dude, there's a person behind that. There's
Right.
an actual living, breathing, passionate person that has, probably put a lot of effort into something, and then they were excited about it, or they were, whatever. And then if you're just creating drama just to create drama, like, that's kind of a turdy thing to do. That being said, like, I know there's been a bunch recently with some of the people we really like and really appreciate and whatnot. And I think there's some aspect of that where I feel like there's a lot of gotcha moments, and I feel like that's like, I almost feel like they're traps to some level, like you're talking about, where people maybe don't actively, but like, there's something with the Linus Tech Tips thing recently, right? Like, I don't want to, I just said I wouldn't get specific, but like, I was watching another thing about it, but like, this is separate from our hobby. This is outside of our hobby, so I feel like a little better about it. But like, there's this thing where he, like, apparently Linus, he's really good at gaslighting. Like, he's an excellent gaslighter. He knows how to gaslight like nobody's business, and how to turn the argument into like, oh, it wasn't my fault. It was your fault that you disagree with me. He's really good at that. But he did a thing recently that was like really gnarly, where he knew that the person had like 2 phone numbers or whatever, but so he sent it to like the wrong number, like, not on purpose, but it was like, oh, you never responded to me, but it was known that number was no longer like I don't know. And so it was like,
was this the thing with Steve?
Yeah.
Okay, I know some of it. That's why I'm following you.
And so like, it's like, dude, that's so, but like, to his audience, they don't know that. Like, unless you were in like the know, or you actually start, like, I'm a ADHD rabbit holer, man. So I'll be like, well, wait a second, that as soon as something sounds like off or wrong, or like there's some weirdness, I have to pick at it until I figure out what that is, right? And that was one of the things. And it was just like, dude, come on, like, that's like, you're just playing to your base now, or you're playing for clicks. And which, I mean, I don't know if you watched any of that group, but like, they're pretty notorious for that. So that to me is not cool. Like, I just don't agree with that. And I don't dislike any of those things. I think there's some good value in all those. Like, I think, but at the same time, like, I don't know. That's just not what I would dig on. I don't appreciate when you're kind of like falsely, you're trying to control the narrative, and you're setting up false, not necessarily false, but you're red herrings a little bit, or you know what I mean? Like, you're kind of like navigating with that. Like, that's when I start getting like, you lost me. But that's just me, and I don't want to say that he's bad or like whatever. That's for other people to determine for themselves, kind of thing.
Right.
But
yeah, no, I mean, that's kind of my take on it too, and the reason why that kind of stuff annoys me too is because I'm one of those people that's like, a lot of this stuff can easily just be a one-on-one conversation between the two parties, or between whoever is involved with it, and resolve. But instead, everybody wants to look at something like that as an opportunity to create something out of it. Like you're saying, like, have people with pitchforks, rounding behind them for what?
Cult of personality, man.
It's like, they didn't know about it beforehand. They don't need to know about it now. It doesn't really change anything. You're just doing this for, like you said, for clicks. Now it just annoys the crap out of me.
Yeah, agreed. I think you just nailed it too. Like, there's also that clout chase, right? Like, so I don't necessarily think it's a Linus thing, but there's other groups that do this, that will do. They're willing to throw certain people or different groups under the bus so that they look good, to the community, right? And so I think in that scenario, if I see somebody throwing somebody else under the bus and saying like, "Hey, these people did this horrible thing," it's like, but wait, what led up to that horrible thing? What led up? Like, there's usually, and I guess this is my law enforcement background, or like my, I'm not really law enforcement. But I had a military background, I had a bunch of whatever, but like government stuff. But like to me, one of the biggest things I always took away was there's always two sides to every story, right? And usually there could be 3, 4, 5 sides to every story. And somewhere in the middle of all of those stories, there's the truth. And even that truth might be like fuzzy, right? And so like, but just to get an idea, like there's this person, and they're telling a story. But in reality, it's somewhere in the middle between the different things that they're spewing that actually what happened, right? And so it's never black and white. It's never, but it's the people that then take advantage of knowing that and push that narrative to keep that audience or to gain that audience by knowing that's the thing that bugs me. But
yeah, and I think that's, we talk about, you and I have talked about stuff that's come up and drama that's come up, or maybe somebody's opinion that we're like, wow, what the heck were they talking about? There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, personal conversation between friends, or a group of people on a Discord or something,
100%.
But when you're taking it to a general big audience that doesn't have a lot of the context behind it, and like, hey, this is what happened, but I'm not going to tell you the other side of it. This is just what happened. And that's what bothers me the most. Like I said, everybody's, freedom of speech. You're allowed to say whatever the heck you want about somebody else if you have a problem with somebody, but you don't need to make it so big. It's not going to stop. I know that.
It's only going to get worse. At the end of the day, but
yeah.
I would say it's tough. Yeah, because it's not going to go away.
No.
And it's because it is what it is, right? Like, you're going to have the clout chasers. You're going to have the people that like that pander to that base, that want to hear the drama. Because that's the thing, man. People love drama. They love hearing the craziness. They want to have somebody to dislike. They want to have somebody to pitchfork against. And it's just kind of like, and generally that's never. Generally, there's usually more to the story. Not always. Sometimes, but even then, usually, even like, okay, I will talk about this just because it's already done, it's over, and everything like that. The DCS and Golden Sound thing, right? Everyone was up in arms that DCS knew about it, and this was like this whole thing, this whole giant drama and all this crazy stuff. And then come to light that it was really just a huge misunderstanding between a very specific person that was pissed off at the way that Golden Sound was doing his stuff, and he was representing the company of DCS outside of his actual means to represent them. Like, he was pushing something that was not the main DCS company's actual messaging, and he was lying to his superiors and his bosses, but then pushing another thing. And so, like, it was just that, right? And say what you will, like, that is bad. I'm not gonna say that wasn't bad. Like, it was bad. But once again, there was still nuance there. There was still more to the story than just this, like, man, like, like, they're trying to ruin me. And, like, could it have gone a different way? 100%. And could it have been just because that the public knew about it that they went that way? Sure. And that one's more nuanced, and that one's a little more chaotic. But
yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that there are, times, I think, more rare than probably not rare, where sometimes bringing it to light does solve things better, because somebody's just going to hide behind the shadows until you expose them. I get that, but I feel like we're all wanting to just jump out and expose everybody, and come on, like, let's not.
Yeah. Yes, agreed. Like, because there's all, especially if it's going to be, research it, like, figure it out. Like, there's got to be more. And I think that's the other problem is, right? Like, you nailed at the beginning of it, right? Like, if it's months down the road and that kind of stuff, which can be, why is it months down the road? Oh, it's also, they haven't been contacting me because it's, the busiest time of the year. It's the holidays, and everyone's ramping up to sell stuff for the holidays. Well, you're probably not going to get a response, like, but, or, like, I don't know. There's just nuance. And I think you need to expose when there's bad intent, but it's also upon you to figure out what that bad intent is, or if there actually is bad intent. Was it negligence, bad intent, or was it they just completely missed it? Like, There's so many ways to like discuss it. Like, and the best way to do that, what she just said, was like, hey, call the person, call the people. If you're not getting a hold of them and it's going down the road, maybe just drop it. Like, not drop it. Like, I don't want to say drop it in the sense of like, if this is bad, definitely pursue. But like, if it's just you chasing clout, like, or just like, oh, these guys are bad because they're not talking to me back, or they're not, like, it's tough, man. Because I don't want to sound like I'm a apologist for like manufacturers or something like that, because that's not. I just think I just don't want to dehumanize people, or you know what I mean, like,
right.
I think there's a balance. There's a balance to it, in my head, and I guess it's just my approach would be that way. I'd want to get as much of the story as possible before putting something out to make me look bad or them look bad. You know what I mean? Because I also don't want to be wrong. If I'm pushing a narrative that says that these people are bad, I want to be 100% sure that these people are bad, because that's right. That's my take on it, I guess, is what I should say. And I don't want to tell people to do anything other than like what they think is right. But like for me personally, I'd want to make sure I checked all the right boxes before I started going down a path of like, and that's also going to be completely subjective as well, because my biases will kick in.
Oh yeah, yep.
So I don't know. That's a tough one. Not easy.
No, it's not. Sorry, I was reading some more Crypto's chat here. He was asking,
kicking.
Best app. Oh yeah, actually, you and I just talked about this. Best amp DAC you guys use for the HD100S. I can't comment on that because I didn't have it in long enough to give you a good idea, but I know you have.
I really dig that Pietus Maximus. Fucking words, man. Excuse my language. God. So Pietus Maximus, and actually Josh Valor, actually he even talks about it. Like the HD800S with the Pietus Maximus is like, it's fantastic. And then also any kind of tube amp with the HD800S is going to be fantastic. And you don't really need like the DAC. Here's the thing about DACs, in my opinion. Set a budget, max the budget out, buy whatever's in that budget for your budget, and just be done. Don't think about it, because at the end of the day, the DAC is important, but you're going to get more bang for your buck out of your headphones, IEMs, and then amp before your DAC. So the DAC would be like that final, like, I'm trying to max everything out at the end of the day. But up until that point, I would just say pick a budget, max the budget out, buy whatever DAC you're looking for, and move forward. But Pietus Maximus for the HD800S is peanut butter and chocolate.
Nice. Yeah, and you're right. I saw Josh was selling some stuff today, and he was actually talking about that for the 800S. Oh, that exact combination. So
he doesn't like the HD800S. So is he sell? Yeah, I would probably sell that one. I should ask him. Yeah, I know he's not the biggest fan. He's of the HD800Ss, but yeah. Organics, Call of Duty, too much from. Yeah, I can see that. That's one thing with planars, is they can get a little that crispiness I was talking about. That's that super sharp separation of notes. That's the problem with those. Especially with gunshots, I've noticed it can get almost too realistic of gunshot damage. Like they'll peak into the 90s and 100s with planars, I've noticed, outside of your listening volume. Like, so you'll have, I don't know if you know about headphones and amps and that kind of stuff. The way it works is like you'll be listening at a steady 70 decibels, 75, 80 decibels, but there's peaks that come up.
Oh yeah.
So if you're listening at 75 to 80 and you have a gunshot, which would be a peak, that could peak up into the 100 decibel range depending on whatever. And that could be where you don't like it, because it's peaking up out of your comfort zone. And with gunshots, that would do that for sure. And especially with planars, because they're so crisp and they have that, not a snap, but, retort of a gunshot.
Right. Yeah, don't stealth in the grass too much with a planar. The crispiness of the grass. Be like, get out of there.
Rake on a chalkboard. HD820 amp DAC. Yeah, that was a fantastic one. I really like that one. That was actually really built really well for the HD800s in general. But yeah.
You know, I don't remember if I told you this, if I had talked about it on the Discord, but one thing I actually was looking for, and I've been looking for like the last 2 days, and I can't figure out what I want to do, is actually a audio spectrum analyzer. And I didn't even know that
Oh
was the
yeah,
name
I
of them
saw.
until I was actually talking to Warren about it, of HeadFi, because him and I were talking one day, and I was like, I'm not into measurements, you know this, but I said I do still like to
Oh, that's plugged in.
understand. I mean, I'm a person, I always forever want to progress with what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to understand more and more the nuances of music that I listen to and things, just because as I listen to the gear, I want to be able to kind of pinpoint what it is. And he's like, "Oh, well, have you thought about a audio spectrum analyzer?" And I was like, "The heck is that?" And after he explained, I was like, "Oh yeah, I know what that is." And then, the ADI2 DAC has that built into the screen. It's got
Mm-hmm.
the spectrum analyzer right there. I'm like, there's so many things that have one of those. Never would have thought how difficult it is to actually find one that you think is going to work right until you search it on like Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And I still haven't figured out what I want to do in order to get them, because I know musicians use them,
Yeah.
and especially for like just wanting to see where their peaks and ranges are in vocals and things like that, or
Mm-hmm.
instruments that they play. But people don't really get them for my weirdness of just wanting to watch it while I'm listening to music. So
Yeah, it's fair. They're tough. I mean, and there's lots of options. Actually, that topping I just did a video on, Centaurus, that actually has it. I was impressed with that, but it can be a little bit wonk. It wasn't as accurate as the ADI. I think they actually,
right.
the ADI guys, I think they might even have,
Oh, it's
but it's
yeah.
probably expensive. Because
Yeah.
it's professional gear. You're getting into the professional gear pricing at that point.
Right.
But I think there's like I think Vince mentioned it from Bay. There's some different like DIY stuff you can do, which is pretty cool. And get
Yeah, there is.
Where you want it to be. I think my light is, because it's getting darker. My light's so bright that like it's blowing out my hand in my face. But then the background, if I try to darken it with the, like if I get my skin tones normal, then everything else is too dark. Then I look like I'm hiding
Auto
in the
white
shadows.
balance.
I'm Batman. Oh, speaking of fun.
Well, before we end, I want to end on a positive. I was going to ask you to kind of go back to the gaming thing.
Mm-hmm.
What is your like all-time favorite game?
Ooh. That's tough.
It is tough, right?
I think for like nostalgia reasons, I love old school, like side scrollers. Like those are like my comfort food, I guess. So like, but I also really loved, like, one of my all time favorite games that I beat and was super stoked to beat it was Super Meat Boy. You remember that game for the Xbox 360?
Yeah.
But I would say like Super Metroid from Super NES days was always one of my favorites. The Legend of Zelda games were always some of my favorites. Breath of the Wild was like stupid good. But all time favorite, loved Mega Man's. God, that's such a tough question because there's so many good games. Like, I mean, I have literally, like, I have tattoos. I mean, you can see there's Legend of Zelda there, the hearts and stuff.
Yeah.
I have like Firebrand from Demon Crest, and then I have a bunch of Metroid, and I have Samus. I actually have, like, you can't really tell, but like, well, you can see the Metroid there. But on the back of my arm, it's kind of hard to see, but it's upside down. But let me cross. There you go. So there's Samus with her armor. The armor is actually like attaching to her, and that's like my forearm there. And then I have Ninja Gaiden, the original Ninja Gaiden here. God, but as far as like all-time favorite games,
that's hard, right?
Yeah, there's so many. I would say as far as like nostalgia, like those are the big ones. But I'd probably, as far as like time spent in a game, would be Destiny, the Destiny series. But if I was going to say that, I would have to go all the way to the original Halos. Like the Halo LAN parties from back in the day, the Xbox, like the original Xbox LAN parties with Halo, with everyone brought their TVs, everyone would drag their CRTs, and we'd have drinking, and we're playing, and we'd have like the LAN cables go into different rooms, and wow, just having like just crazy LAN like Halo parties would probably be some of my most favorite moments in time. You know,
Right.
and then playing Halo.
I remember doing that with Rainbow Six series. We used to have LAN parties. We bring our computers over.
And then,
Those are fun.
Like that, Call of Duties. I remember playing a lot of Call of Duty when it for the first Modern Warfares, the original Modern Warfare, 1 through 3. Back in the day, playing a lot. I remember playing pistols or knives only in the original Modern Warfare games. And you can only use pistols. You'd create the LAN parties and do only, or we'd have like online. Was when online was really first starting to go, and we'd do the set up the custom games where you can only use pistols or knives or whatever.
Yeah, that reminds me of GoldenEye.
Yeah, GoldenEye, dude.
I used to suck at that game.
God, dude, banning no one could be the chop kid, the little
yeah.
Odd Job, no one could be Odd Job.
Right? Yeah, that's right.
Edge, man. Yeah, dude, there's so many, man. It's so rough. Yeah, dude, I don't know. That's tough. As far as like all-time favorite, I mean, I just love games too much to pick one specific. But if I was to pick, I would say it'd be easier to pick a time just based off nostalgia, and I'd say the SNES era. SNES era was what probably cemented gaming into my head as like this is what I want to be doing as a hobby from here forward, kind of thing. Would be the SNES
cool.
NES kind of thing. Yeah. You? What about you? Let's reverse it. Uno reverse card. Go.
No, it's funny. I wrote the question down and I was like sitting there thinking, I was like, I don't think I could answer this. But I was like, I'll ask him anyway. Yeah. Only because I'm the same way. Like there's so much. But I will say, like, kind of like you, mine wasn't actually console, even though I grew up on Nintendo and Atari and all that fun stuff. I had a Sega.
Was my first one. Commodore 64.
Yeah, I was gonna say Commodore 64. I don't know if you remember the Amiga, but I had an Amiga. That was probably the first like computer I actually had. And then from the day I built my first computer, that was probably my nostalgia of like the early Windows games that I would play. And actually the most amount of time by far of any video game I played was actually the EverQuest 2 series for MMOs and like the OG stuff, not like when they had the 15th expansion out. But I couldn't even tell you how many hours I spent raiding with friends and all that kind of stuff. Just had so much fun doing that kind of thing. But then like more recent, it would definitely be Witcher 3. You brought that up.
Witcher 3
was a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
It is such a good game. And then like for another like game that I played with friends that was definitely a good memory was when we all beat Divinity Original Sin 2, because that was such a long drawn out game, but just a really cool story. But that's a hard question to answer. That'd be like if somebody asked me what's your favorite
Cyberpunk
like song.
Right now is like on top, just I've been playing it like crazy, and I love that world. Like I want to just keep being in that world. I'm biting at the bit for the next version, like or next sequel. Shadowruns were another great game. The original NES or SNES Shadowrun and Genesis games. I used to like. To me, if they could make a Shadowrun game in the Cyberpunk style, like that'd be heaven. Because I don't know if you know Shadowrun. Shadowrun's basically Cyberpunk 2077, but you add like mythological stuff and like magic. So it's like magic.
That's cool. No, I didn't know that.
Dragons, but then it's also like Cyberpunk. So it's wild.
Cool.
was talking about street or fighting games. So yes, I even have.
I suck so bad at fighting
I'm not
games.
good at them. I used to be decent at them. I used to think I was decent. I'm okay at them. But yeah, I do love fighting games. I'm just not very good at them. But like, yeah, dude, there's so many good games. And then like the original, Assassin's Creed Origins. I don't know if you ever played that where they're in Egypt. It's the Egypt one. Mm-hmm. That was stupid good, dude. Witcher 3, like just so many damn good games, man. And then you throw in all the indie games. Like there's the, like I said, the Katana Zero. Highly recommend people check that game out. Super Meat Boy is always fantastic. Another fantastic game that I played the ever living poo out of was this ninja game. Sorry, I'm opening up Steam on my computer now because I didn't remember the name of it. It was like the side-scrolling ninja game, and it's just so what is the Dishonored series, another fantastic series. What is the name of it? I have it on
I
my
had a friend that loved the Dishonored stuff. I never tried them.
Mark of the Ninja. Or yeah, Mark of the Ninja was one of my all-time favorites as well. Side
Huh.
scroller Metroidvania style game.
I tell you another one that was a really good one just for the story alone. I think I was actually talking to Mark DMS about it when I finally met him at Can Jam. Was Titanfall, the
Oh yeah, I
not
love
the first one,
Titanfall.
but the second one, the
That
Titanfall
story.
2 like story was
So good.
outstanding. That was like one of the best stories, and it didn't even take a long time. It was
Yeah.
like 20 some hours.
Yeah. That game. Dude, they dropped the ball so bad on that. It's
Yeah, there was
uh
so much more they could have done.
the so Crypto's mentioning Final Fight, Streets of Rage, that kind of stuff. Streets of Rage, the remake, Streets of Rage is fantastic, and then there's that Ninja Turtle game that's kind of like the remake Streets of Rage guys did with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That game's fantastic too. But yeah, dude, God, yeah, Titanfall. Titanfall's really good. I used to play. It's funny because Josh, DMS, and I have a couple of pictures of us beating a bunch of raids in Destiny together when we were all playing. So, yeah, it's wild how that those associations, people.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Like, I always have this desire to play. Oh, Castle Crashers. That's the other one. Castle Crashers.
Oh yeah, I know that one.
Dude, you want to get your son and daughter into it because it's funny, it's stupid, and it's just like a side-scrolling beat 'em up. That one's fun, and the music's fantastic. Like it's just funny. There's moments where you're just like, it's hard. It's like you have to level up and everything, but that's a fun one. That's a fun one to play with kids too. Like just because it's just a button masher and like silly, but there's some definitely adult humor. But at one point, like there's a deer that gets scared, it ends up like shooting across the screen, pooping, like, but it's all cartoony, so it's like, and it's violent, so there's like, they chop the heads off things, and it's like, but it's cartoony and like, but yeah, that one, that's a fun one. I put a lot of hours into that one. In fact, I have a bunch of I used to every year I'd go to Penny Arcade, and me and my buddies we'd get a Castle Crashers because they'd be there, and we'd get a Castle Crashers figure and or whatever. So I have like the Necromancer, I have a bunch of the skateboards for Castle Crashers. That's another fantastic game.
That's cool.
So
I don't know, man. That gives me kind of an idea. Like it'd be fun one of these times to like, pick a game that we're both gonna play and then talk about in the next stream.
dude,
Just because you and I both love gaming so much.
Dude, we were talking about earlier.
It's almost
dude.
like a quest. Like, here's your quest. Play this game.
Dude, we should do that for this, dude, because I think we can do it. This software, and I'll put the screens. Like I can do it right here. Sorry, guys, it's gonna look weird, but I can just do this, right, and put like me up here, you up there, and then we can put the screen be more proper for the video game, and we can just play video games and chat and talk about audio while playing some beat 'em ups or some whatever, right? That'd be fun. I think it'd be dope.
Yeah.
That'd be a cool series.
That would be a lot of fun.
Audio with gaming, that kind of thing.
Huh. Yep. It's like I said, I don't think it's just because I love gaming so much. I really do feel like there's more and more interest into audio bridging into gaming. I know you and I have talked about that. I just same. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's start scheduling it and start figuring out how to. I'll have to mess with this. Like one of these days, we'll have to get together and get it to where it works with the software itself. Like we're having problems with it, so it's not browser to software and software to software, and we have to figure that out and maybe get some streams going where we can start doing some games and just talk audio and games. That'd be dope.
That would be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Hell yeah, I think we should do it. And on that note,
I'm down.
We'll start scheduling.
Yeah, that's good.
1v1 my wife in Call of Duty and she gets nervous. Yeah, that's true. Dude, yeah, we can do stuff like that. We can do like I love that, like do the Call of Duty, like we're just talking about like knives only or like pistols only. That's fun. Anyways, yeah, man, let's look into it and we'll start doing some. That'd be fun. I think that'd be a fun series too, man. And we could stream to like Twitch, or we can both dual stream, that kind of thing, if we get the software working proper.
Yeah, just got to figure it out. I'm sure we will.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, I think on that note, cool. I think I need to go get dinner with the wife and daughter, and I think so. Secretly, It's not serious because now it's on the public air. But usually when they're here and I hear them, it usually means she's like, "You've been on for an hour and a half.
Time to go."
Yeah, usually she gets. Yeah, that's her.
It's like
her
when the
hint.
lights go out.
Yeah, that's her hint at get off your stream, jerk. But no, she's super sweet. My wife's super cool. The daughter obviously as well. But yeah. Anyhow, Skeeb, Ryan, fantastic chatting with you. We need to do these more. We'll
Yeah, you too.
return the stream. It's tag you're it. So next time I'll jump on yours and I'll be the guy in the browser.
Sounds good.
All right, brother. Have a great rest of your weekend and have a good time off, man. Well, maybe I'll chat with you. Maybe we'll have to get some games on or something if you have time.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've got like a couple of videos to shoot, but I took your advice, like I said, and did a ton of B-roll, and so all I got to do is do a couple of just A-roll stuff, and I'm done. So yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Have a good one, and hopefully get some rest and relaxation in there.
All right, man.